The desert nights in Nevada had a way of playing tricks on even the most seasoned emergency responders, but paramedic Diana Foster had learned to trust her instincts over her 12 years on the job. When the call came in at 2:37 a.m. about strange lights and an explosion near Red Rock Canyon, something in her gut told her this wasn't going to be another case of tourists mistaking weather balloons for UFOs. Dispatch, Unit 17 responding. ETA 12 minutes, she radioed, while her partner Thomas Rivera guided their ambulance through the empty streets of Clark County. The night was unusually still, with not even a whisper of wind disturbing the desert landscape. Be advised, Unit 17, the dispatcher's voice crackled. Air Force and local police have been notified, but you're first on scene. Multiple witnesses reported something large coming down, possible aircraft in distress. Diana checked their trauma kit for the third time. Any word from nearby air traffic control? Negative. No scheduled flights or known aircraft in the area. Thomas glanced at her as they turned onto the desert access road. You're awful quiet, Foster. What's going through that head of yours? Something feels different about this one, she replied, watching the stars through the windshield. Call it instinct. The ambulance's headlights caught something reflecting in the distance, not the normal glint of rock or sand, but a shimmer that seemed to ripple like water in moonlight. As they drew closer, both paramedics fell silent at the sight before them. A massive object, roughly the size of a commercial airplane, lay half buried in the desert floor. But unlike any aircraft they'd ever seen, this one seemed to pulse with an internal light, its surface flowing like liquid metal. A trail of debris stretched for nearly a quarter mile, each piece emitting a faint bluish glow. Dispatch. Diana keyed her radio, trying to keep her voice steady. We're going to need hazmat and additional support units. This is not a conventional aircraft. Static was her only reply. All their equipment, radios, phones, even the ambulance's electronic systems, had gone dark as they approached the crash site. Thomas, stay with the rig. If anything happens, you get out of here and get help. Diana grabbed her jump kit and stepped out into the cool desert air. The moment her boots hit the ground, she felt it. A vibration, more felt than heard, that seemed to resonate in her chest. As she approached the wreckage, a section of the hull suddenly became transparent, revealing the interior. Through the crystalline surface, she could make out several figures moving in what appeared to be a control room. They were tall, elegant creatures with bodies that seemed to be made of living crystal, internal lights pulsing in complex patterns. One of them was clearly injured, its crystalline form cracked and dimming. The others were supporting it, and Diana could see what appeared to be their equivalent of blood, a luminescent fluid, seeping from the wounds. I'm a paramedic, she called out, holding up her hands. I'm here to help. The surface of the ship rippled again, and an opening appeared. 3 of the beings emerged, carrying their injured companion. Up close, they were even more magnificent. Their bodies were translucent but complex, with visible circulatory systems that carried light instead of blood. The injured one wore what appeared to be ornate crystalline formations that suggested authority or rank. One of the uninjured beings held up a small device that projected a holographic display. After a moment, words formed in the air. Our queen requires medical attention. Our healing technologies were damaged in the crash. Can your primitive methods assist? Diana looked at her very human medical kit, then at the alien queen whose light was gradually dimming. Everything in her training told her this was way above her pay grade. But when she looked into the queen's eyes, multifaceted crystals that somehow conveyed pain and hope, she saw something universal, a patient in need. I don't know much about your biology, Diana said, already pulling on her gloves, but I swore an oath to help anyone in need. Let me try. The aliens exchanged looks, their internal lights flickering in patterns that suggested communication. Finally, the holographic display showed new words. Proceed, human healer. Our queen's life depends on your skills. As Diana opened her kit, and began examining the alien queen's injuries. She couldn't help but smile slightly. Med school definitely hadn't covered xenobiology, but the basic principles were the same. Stop the bleeding, stabilize the patient, maintain vital signs, even if those vital signs happen to be patterns of living light rather than a heartbeat. The desert night stretched on, as humanity's first emergency medical contact with an alien species began not with grand diplomatic ceremonies or military confrontations, but with a simple act of compassion. A paramedic doing her job, no matter who or what needed help. Diana's hands moved with practiced efficiency as she assessed the alien queen's injuries. The crystalline being's wounds appeared as fractures in her translucent form, each one leaking that strange luminescent fluid. What fascinated Diana most was how the queen's body seemed to be attempting to heal itself, tiny filaments of light trying to bridge the gaps, like living fiber optics. I need to know if anything I have in my kit could make things worse, Diana said, addressing the alien with the holographic translator. Are you sensitive to any earth materials? Metals? Plastics? The translator flickered with the response. Our bodies adapt to most inert materials. The priority is containing the loss of our life essence. Every moment it dims, our queen weakens. Thomas called from the ambulance. Diana, we've got incoming. I can see lights on the highway. Lots of them. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less. Diana took a deep breath. Standard protocol for unknown substances was to wait for hazmat, but the queen's light was fading rapidly. Sometimes being a good paramedic meant knowing when to break the rules. She pulled out a package of quick clot gauze, designed to accelerate blood clotting in human trauma patients. This might help slow the energy loss while your natural healing works. I'm going to apply it to the largest fracture first. The alien guard's internal lights pulsed with what seemed like anxiety, but they didn't interfere. As Diana pressed the gauze against the queen's largest wound, something unexpected happened. The crystalline surface began to integrate with the material, the queen's natural healing processes using the gauze as a framework to rebuild. It's working, Diana muttered, amazed. Your Highness, your body is actually using our medical supplies as a template for regeneration. I need to apply more. The queen's voice came through the translator, weaker but clear. Your primitive technology. It provides a structure. Simple, yet effective. Perhaps there is wisdom in basic solutions. Working quickly, Diana applied more gauze to the remaining fractures. Each time, the alien tissue adapted, using the human medical material as scaffolding for its own healing process. The queen's internal light began to stabilize, its pulse becoming more regular. But their time was running out. The distant lights were getting closer, and Diana could now hear the distinctive thrum of helicopter rotors. We need to move you back into your ship. Can you walk? The vessel's core is damaged, one of the guards transmitted. We cannot achieve space-worthy status without repairs. Diana looked between the approaching lights and the crashed ship, making a decision that would probably end her career, if she was lucky. She keyed her radio. Thomas, bring the rig closer. We're about to have some unusual passengers. Diana, that's against every protocol in the book. So is letting patients die, because we're waiting for paperwork. Get over here. As Thomas maneuvered the ambulance closer, Diana helped the aliens gather what appeared to be essential equipment from their craft. The queen was now able to move on her own, though slowly, her crystalline form still showing signs of damage, but no longer in critical danger. Your healing skills have earned our trust, the queen transmitted, but why risk yourself further? Diana secured the ambulance's rear doors, now hiding 4 crystalline aliens and various pieces of technology that would probably rewrite half of human physics. Because you're still my patients, and I took an oath. Besides, I have a feeling that some of the people coming aren't as interested in helping you as they are in studying you. The sound of helicopters was now directly overhead, searchlights beginning to sweep the desert floor. Diana jumped into the driver's seat, Thomas beside her looking simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. "Where exactly are we taking them?" he asked as Diana turned the ambulance around, avoiding the main road where vehicles were now visible. "My grandfather's old mining claim," she replied, taking a barely visible track into the hills. "It's got an underground equipment vault that's been empty for years. They can repair their ship's core there while I monitor the Queen's recovery." As they bounced along the rough desert track, evading the growing commotion behind them, the Queen's voice came through the translator once more. "In all our studies of Earth, we never expected to find such complexity in your kind. You risk much to help us. That's the thing about humans," Diana replied, guiding the ambulance deeper into the darkness. "We're at our best when we're breaking rules for the right reasons. Now let's see about getting you all patched up properly and back among the stars where you belong." Behind them, the desert exploded with activity. Government vehicles, military personnel, and various agencies all converging on an empty crash site, while the real first contact between humans and aliens continued in an old mining vault, led by a paramedic who chose compassion over protocol. The mining vault was surprisingly well suited for their needs. Diana's grandfather had installed a generator and basic amenities years ago, and the underground chamber was naturally shielded from most forms of detection. As Thomas worked to set up emergency lighting, Diana continued monitoring the alien Queen's recovery. "Your bodily luminescence has increased by 20%, Diana noted, checking the strange readings on a device the aliens had given her, something that looked like a cross between a crystal and a medical tablet. "The quick clot seems to have integrated completely with your cellular structure." The Queen, whom Diana now knew was called Lysandra, or at least that was the closest human approximation, moved her crystalline form experimentally. The areas where Diana had applied the gauze now shimmered with a slightly different pattern than the surrounding tissue, but they were fully healed. "Your species continues to surprise us," Lysandra's translator projected. "We assumed Earth's medical technology would be too primitive to be of use, yet it was precisely its simplicity that made it effective." The other aliens, whom Diana had begun thinking of as the medical officer, security chief, and engineer based on their roles, were working on what appeared to be a portable version of their ship's core. The device pulsed with the same kind of energy that flowed through their bodies, but its rhythm was erratic. Thomas returned from his patrol of the perimeter. "Military's got roadblocks on every major route within 50 miles. They're going door to door in some areas. News is saying it was a classified aircraft test gone wrong." Diana nodded, unsurprised. Classic cover-up. "How long before they start searching the backcountry?" "Dawn. Probably. 6 hours, give or take." The alien engineer looked up from the core device, its crystalline form flickering with what Diana had learned to recognize as frustration. The translator conveyed its message. "The core matrix is severely misaligned. Without proper tools, repairs will take at least 12 hours. "Which we don't have," Diana muttered. She turned to Lysandra. "What exactly does this core matrix do? Maybe we can find a way to improvise." The medical officer's lights pulsed in what seemed like objection, but Lysandra raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "The core converts basic elements into the energy our bodies require. Think of it as both an engine and a life support system. Without it functioning properly, we cannot power our vessel or maintain our biological integrity for long periods." Diana thought about this. "So it's basically a combination power plant and dialysis machine, but for energy instead of blood." She looked at the device more carefully. "The patterns of light flowing through it, they're similar to your circulatory systems, but chaotic." "Correct. The crash damaged the crystalline matrix that guides the energy flow. We need to realign it perfectly, but our precision tools were destroyed." Diana pulled out her phone and opened a medical app she used for training. "Show me the pattern it's supposed to follow." The engineer projected a complex three-dimensional lattice of light into the air. Diana studied it, then showed them her phone screen. Look, this is a human EKG pattern. See how the electrical signals of our hearts follow specific pathways. What if we use this as a guide to restructure your matrix? The aliens' internal lights flickered rapidly as they communicated among themselves. Finally, the engineer transmitted, "The mathematical principles are compatible, but we would need an interface between our technology and your device." "I might have an idea about that," Thomas spoke up. Everyone turned to look at him. "Back in the ambulance, we've got that new ultrasound machine. It uses crystalline transducers to convert electrical signals into sound waves and back. Could we modify it?" The alien medical officer's lights brightened considerably. Yes, that could work. We could use the transducers as a bridge between our technologies. For the next hour, they worked together in an improbable collaboration. Human emergency medical equipment being carefully integrated with advanced alien technology. Diana and Thomas provided the ultrasound machine's transducers, which the aliens modified using their own crystalline technology. The medical officer and engineer worked to create an interface, while Diana helped Lysandra understand human cardiac rhythms. "It's like a universal language," Diana explained, showing Lysandra the perfect pattern of a healthy heartbeat. "Every living thing needs a rhythm to function. We just need to help your core find its rhythm again." As they worked, Diana couldn't help but notice how the initial barriers between them had faded. The aliens' movements had become more relaxed, their lights pulsing in patterns that seemed almost warm when they interacted with the humans. Even the security chief had stopped monitoring the entrance quite so intensely. But they all knew their time was running out. Somewhere above them, the full might of human military and intelligence forces was closing in, searching for evidence of something they weren't ready to understand. And in this underground vault, two species were racing against time to prove that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from superior technology or force, but from the simple willingness to trust and help each other. Race against time. Dawn was approaching when the first signs of trouble appeared. Thomas, returning from another perimeter check, burst into the vault. They'd found tracks from the ambulance. "Ground teams are moving into the hills." Diana looked up from where she and the aliens had nearly completed their hybrid medical engineering device. The core matrix was now suspended in a framework of modified ultrasound transducers, human and alien technology working in unlikely harmony. "How long?" she asked, already knowing she wouldn't like the answer. "An hour, maybe less." The alien engineer's lights pulsed rapidly. "We require at least 2 hours to complete the energy transfer and stabilization." Diana made a quick decision. "Thomas, take the ambulance. Lead them away from here. I'll stay and help finish this." "Diana." "That's an order," she said firmly. "If they catch you, you are following my instructions under duress. I'll take full responsibility." After Thomas left, the work continued with renewed urgency. The security chief positioned itself near the entrance, while Diana and the medical officer made final adjustments to their improvised device. Queen Lysandra supervised, her own energy patterns helping to guide the restructuring of the core matrix. Initiating power transfer, the engineer transmitted. The device hummed to life, human EKG patterns translating into alien energy frequencies. The core's chaotic pulses began to steady, following the rhythm of a perfect heartbeat. But then they heard it. Helicopters, closer this time. The security chief's lights flashed in warning patterns. "We need more time," the engineer projected frantically. Diana checked the readings on her medical equipment. "The pattern is at 60% alignment. Is that enough to get you to safety?" "Barely," Lysandra responded. "But the energy transfer will have to happen on the move." Diana began disconnecting non-essential components. "We'll finish this on the way to your ship." Part 5. Legacy of First Contact. They emerged from the vault into pre-dawn darkness, carrying the still-functioning core device. Diana led them through narrow canyons she'd explored as a child, while distant voices and searchlights pursued phantom trails left by Thomas. The core's alignment continued to improve as they moved, now synchronized with both human and alien rhythms. Queen Lysandra's own energy patterns had grown stronger, her crystalline form gleaming with renewed vitality. "Your assistance goes beyond mere medical aid," Lysandra transmitted as they paused in a sheltered ravine. "You've shown us that advancement isn't always about complexity. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones," Diana replied, checking the core readings. "Trust, compassion, the willingness to help. These things transcend technology." The core matrix suddenly pulsed with a perfect rhythm, its light matching the pattern of both human heartbeats and alien energy signatures. The engineers' lights flickered with joy. Full alignment achieved. They'd reached the ship just as the first rays of sun touched the desert hills. The vessel had maintained its cloaking field, invisible to the search parties that had examined the area hours before. "Come with us," Lysandra offered as her crew began preparing for departure. "Your world may not understand what you've done here. We can offer you safety, knowledge, exploration." Diana smiled but shook her head. "My place is here. Someone needs to stay and remind humanity that there's more to first contact than fear and weapons. Besides, I've got patients who depend on me." Lysandra's form shifted, and a small crystal separated from her body. "Then take this. It contains medical knowledge, treatments and techniques adapted to work with your level of technology. Use it to help your people prepare for a wider universe." As the ship rose silently into the brightening sky, Diana clutched the crystal and watched years of assumptions about humanity's place in the universe fade away with the stars. She had no illusions about what awaited her when she turned herself in. Debriefings, accusations, probably worse. But she also knew that somewhere up there, a race of crystalline beings was rethinking their views on primitive species. And in her pocket was proof that compassion and trust could bridge gaps far wider than the space between stars. Days later, after the interrogations and explanations, after signing countless non-disclosure agreements, Diana returned to work. Her superiors had decided it was easier to keep her where they could watch her than to explain why a decorated paramedic had suddenly disappeared. That night, she responded to a car accident outside town. As she worked to stabilize a patient, the crystal in her pocket hummed softly, sharing its knowledge. And somewhere in her mind, she heard Lysandra's final message. "Remember, healer of Earth, that the greatest technologies are worthless without the heart to guide them wisely." Diana smiled as she applied a bandage, one of many new treatments she'd learned from the crystal, adapted from alien techniques, but made workable with human technology. The patient stabilized more quickly than anyone would have expected. In the end, first contact hadn't changed the fundamental truth she'd always known, that the most important medical tool wasn't a scanner or a drug or even alien crystal technology. It was the simple decision to help someone in need, regardless of where they came from or what they looked like. And somewhere up there, she knew, a crystalline queen was teaching her own people the same lesson.